Hello, it's Eeyore. Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Bah, bah, bah,
Oh,
bah.
oh, you know what? I double clicked the audio. You were on. I double clicked my mic and I actually
Bah.
clicked it off, so people didn't hear me say that I was cross promoting by drinking out of my ATA cup in my black comfy robe because it was cold. So yes, I have fixed that now. Thank you. I don't know how I do that. I double clicked and it clicked on and clicked off. Oh well, this is going to be a very short episode, anyways. Probably, which we always say, which never happens, but maybe this time it
Every
will.
time we say that, it never happens. Every time we say that, it
We do.
never happens. One of our listeners sent me this
Yes, I remember that.
last year,
And you've been wearing it. Yes, there's depressive. That is the depressive donkey. He's always
and I've
depressed. He's
been
always
wearing
down.
it ever
Does it
since.
make you feel down? I mean,
Oh, it makes me feel cozy.
yeah. I mean, it looks cozy. I mean, hey, look. If somebody sends me a onesie, I'll wear it. I'm okay with that. I actually love this is terry cloth, right? And I love terry cloth for like robes, especially like the big heavy ones that you get out of the shower, you immediately put that robe on, you're already sweating, so you don't freeze your ass off. Because I don't deal well with cold. People know this. I am from California. If it gets to 90 degrees, I'll put on a sweater. Okay, I do not like it for cold weather. I do not survive
It's
well in
snowing
cold
right
weather.
now.
No, I like it. Okay, I like it if it's nice and comfy inside. Right, if it's nice 85 degrees inside, and then I walk outside and it's snowing and I can play.
85.
I'm Californian. We like it hot,
Oh,
or we're used to it hot.
ugh.
Yeah, we
I
set the
can
temperature here for
barely handle
74, actually.
72. I prefer
That's
like
room temperature.
68.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because this house actually stays about 68 just because of the insulation. So it really does stay at around 68. Now, we put the heater on. We put it to 74. But it gets down to like
I
32
had,
degrees at night, which is freezing here. So, well, freezing
I
everywhere.
was
But
leaning, and what I did was it was like relatively, so right now it's snowing and it was like big snowflakes. But yesterday it was pretty like almost warm and sunny. And so I turned the heat off and opened all my windows and was like fresh air. And it was like this is my kind of temperature.
I'm okay with that. Like I said, I like walking outside in nice, cool, brisk air. Like, for example, in a cabin, and you walk outside in
Mhm.
that fresh morning air, and you're drinking your coffee, and it's like 45 degrees, and you have that chill.
It
I'm
looks
okay
like a
with that.
Folgers commercial.
Yes, exactly. I could live my rest of my life doing that. If anybody wants to
Hmm.
marry me and get me a cabin, and we can just live off the land fishing, and as long as I have internet.
You don't even have to live with him. You can just send him
Yeah,
there
yeah.
and
Look, we can
visit
have
you.
separate rooms. I don't care. Yeah, I'm really not particular. At this point, you really don't have to be that attractive. My my standards are pretty low, but I don't see that happening. But yeah, no, I could love that. I would love to live off the land. Now I'm not a big hunter, right? People know that, but I do like to fish, and I would probably hunt small game. Maybe I don't know if I would really be able to butcher it, but um, I
My
would love to
tomato
forest.
plant's doing pretty good.
Would you forest like go through trees and get berries and edibles and if you knew what you were doing?
I would probably not do very much foraging. I would probably build a greenhouse.
That would be cool too. Why couldn't you do both?
I would probably build a greenhouse, and then I would also have like a maybe two goats and like a handful of chickens. So then I have eggs, milk, and vegetables.
That's just too much work because you got to feed them and you got to take care of them. Although it'd be cool. Don't get me wrong. I love fresh eggs and fresh milk, but
It's if you have like if you're trying to produce a lot of eggs or you have like a chicken coop, yeah, it's a lot of work. But if you have sort of like more free range chicken, because you can have the chickens and the goats together just on the property, because the goats are pretty much going to feed themselves, and then the chicken, so you'd have to like buy a little bit of feed for both of them.
have you done
But
that before?
no, but I
Oh.
know people who have.
Oh, Just Brit says, my hubby wants us to move to Alaska and live off the land. I'm telling him good luck. Yeah, no, Alaska's not living off the land. Okay, there's pretty desolate areas up in Alaska. If I was to live off the land, I'm talking more like Oregon at the furthest, or Washington or Utah or Colorado. I prefer more like the warmer climates, like Arizona, New Mexico. But yeah, no, don't go to Alaska.
Mr. Serious said, I'd green card marry anyone. If your life is so bad you want to escape to here, it is my humanitarian duty to at least do that much.
Well, I mean, I already live here, Mr. Serious, but if you want to buy me a cabin, we can talk afterwards. We can make some kind of arrangement.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we can have separate rooms. I mean, throughout the 50s and 60s, didn't couples sleep in different beds because they couldn't show them in the same bed on TV?
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. It's like, wait a minute here. Why are they in different beds?
I mean, I can kind of get that in some regards. Like if your hubby or your significant other works on an off shift to you or something, or like if one of you just has like snores really loud.
Oh, sure.
I think we should normalize a little bit more of people having separate bedrooms, so that way both people in their house have their own space to do whatever they want.
I'm not against that. I'm just saying that on TV they couldn't even allow to show it.
Yeah, on TV it was kind of silly.
Yeah, no, I there are times where I just were like, I get it. I was like, I just want to sleep on the couch because it's just I want to be able to crash and not fidget, and I get that. I totally understand that.
And sometimes it's really like too hot. Don't touch me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a time and a place. Like I said, I mean, I prefer sleeping next to somebody only because I did for like the vast majority of my life, and you get used to it, right? But there are certain times you just don't. That's for damn sure. Especially if you want to get a good night's sleep and your partner's fidgety or very warm at night or kicks or snores.
Or you just feel like you want to be left alone.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I'm with you on that one. I get it.
You have a gropey partner. Like gropes around in their sleep a lot.
I'm not against that. I like partners to grope. I'm more like they kick and they don't realize how violent they get when they have like an sleep nightmare or something like that. I've had people thrash.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I don't. When I have a nightmare, one that I'm lucid in, I'll try to scream, but nothing comes out. But I don't thrash.
I also think it's probably beneficial for people to like. Not only normalize having your own space, but normalize being allowed to be left alone. Like it's not an insult if you don't feel like you want to sleep with your significant other that night. And you don't have to do it every night. You just sometimes or most of the time, but not always. It's like people are very, very sensitive sometimes about stuff like that because there's an expectation there. And it's like, what if you think about it, why is this expectation even here in the first place?
Yeah, no, I mean, there were definitely times you need your space. I had a girlfriend that I was dated for 5 years before I finally left her. When I took up telling her I need my space, and she took that to like literally mean physical space, but I'm like, no, it's a little more complicated than this. I mean, this was the kind of girl to follow you around, ask what you were doing, who you hung out with.
You have a stage 5 clinger.
Yeah, and I couldn't handle it because I'm not that type, and I don't like Look, I believe in trust, you know that, and so if I'm with a partner and she can't trust me, I'm like, what the fuck am I even doing with you? Come to find out, she was the one that wasn't trustworthy, but shocker, because they project, right? They project those things. Yeah.
Whoa. We've never seen that before.
Let's see. Jamie Russell, welcome to Beginner Alert. You've already been. Jamie was supported before, so I don't know if he stopped and then he started, but thank you, Jamie. Let's see here.
Hey. Yeah, we've got a call in. The number is below me. If you guys want to call in and chat with us, you can call in. We're having a pajama day.
Yeah, I wasn't going to put that in yet, but hey, since it's out there, whatever. I forgot to turn it off. We were supposed to have Heather join us, but I don't know what happened there. But yeah, if you guys want to call in, that is the accurate number for this particular hangout. It does change every hangout, so no big deal there. You just got to be able to dial in, and there's the phone number. But I have control of it, so I can kick anybody out I want.
I want to know what people's favorite thing to do on Saturday mornings if they have no other obligations. So like either when you were a kid and you had no obligations, or as you've gotten older, what you prefer to do if you don't have to like take care of your own kids, or you don't have to like you clean unless you want to.
I just used to watch cartoons.
Hell yeah.
When I was a kid, I loved watching. I would make myself a fort. You know, I was that kid that made myself a fort with a table, chairs, or blanket over, or something like that, where I could just kind of hide away and just look out and watch my TV. And we had this, pretty decent sized TV for the time. Old school, yeah. We actually had get up and turn the knob, right?
Oh yeah.
But I remember I would watch Voltron and Space Ghost Coast to Coast and that kind of stuff. Bugs Bunny, not recognizing back then how dirty Bugs Bunny actually really was.
Yo, Bugs Bunny is dark.
Yeah, dark. A lot of those. So Tom and Jerry too, man. I mean, there's one episode where Tom kind of rolls up. He licks he takes a cigarette and he uses Jerry as to lick it or something like that, and then he puffs and comes out like howdy, and it's like, okay, you're promoting smoking for kids. That's brilliant.
Well, see the monkey see monkey do, I guess. Kids are stupid.
Or did you see the episode with Bugs Bunny where he's throwing? He felt snubbed. He didn't get an Oscar or Emmy or something. I think it was an Oscar, and he was showing his best highlight reel of his work, and it shows the projection on the screen, and it says Stag Film, and he's like, "Whoa, wait!" And Stag Film, obviously, for those who may not be from America, or that's a porn movie. So, I mean, in Bugs Bunny, he's like referencing a porn movie that he was in. That's how dirty it was. So,
yeah.
But those are designed for adults. So.
Do you think it messed with you as a kid?
No,
yeah.
no.
See, I think there's a big difference between things that are tricky, marketed towards kids, and stuff that's for adults that kids watch and just don't. Care.
Yeah, never even thought about it.
I would say Jerry smoking, I don't think would be necessarily trying to sell smoking to kids. Seeing a character smoking doesn't necessarily mean it's promoting that thing. Yeah, no, so I think we kind of treat kids like they're a little bit more fragile and kids are dumb, but they're not that kind of dumb.
Well, if they were that kind of dumb, then anybody who ever played cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians would grow up, wanting to actually shoot people in real life kind of stuff, and it doesn't work that way.
There are some that do that.
Well, but there's psychopaths and sociopaths and wherever you go anyways, but I'm just saying that these kind of things that people grew up with, I mean, I played Grand Theft Auto. I don't want to run out and go hijack cars. I mean, sure, it'd be kind of fun to live in that kind of, game world for a while, but that's not reality, and we all understand that it's just not, something we ethically should be doing. Although I do want to see that game that comes out this movie comes out this month. What's it called? Is it called Free Play or something with Ryan Reynolds, where he's a character in the he recognizes he's a character in the game. Yeah. Is it called Free Play? Is that what it's called?
Isn't it Free 2?
I don't remember. But it looks badass. I want to see that movie so bad. I would actually go to the movie theater and
Free Guy.
Free guy?
Free Guy, yeah.
Free Guy, okay. Maybe it should be called a free play or what do they call it when you get an extra life? Yeah,
Free Guy. Yeah, for a free man.
So that's what it's called, Free Guy?
Free Guy. Okay. Yep.
Somebody want to go to the movies with me and see it? I love watching movies with people. It's one of my favorite things to do. Even more so if it's not in the movie theater, to sit on a couch and just drink some wine.
I like watching bad movies with people.
Bad, good, it doesn't matter. I'm a huge fan of just cuddling and watching a fucking movie, man.
I'm not gonna cuddle with you. I know. Not
even the footsies.
This onesie looks really, really.
Oh, I would just take the onesie and wear it myself and put you on the floor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You can cuddle with the onesie.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
You can put a pillow inside of it.
But do you agree though? It's fun to watch a movie with somebody unless they're one of those talkers, right?
I'm that guy.
Oh fuck, man. No.
Yeah. No, I'm that guy. Yes. I specifically do not go to the movie theater very often because I'm that guy in the theater. That's wait a minute. What? Hold up.
How is that scientifically accurate?
I don't usually go that far. It's usually if it's an internal plot hole. I don't expect things to be hyper realistic all of the time. But if there's something that's just wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Didn't he just say this?
Oh no, I get when somebody yells out what? I get it. I do understand it.
I do. I'm the worst. I will not shut up. I will talk through a whole movie if if I want to.
What was like the last movie you watched where you just go, oh my god, this is so utterly bad?
Like that was new-ish.
Yeah, we'll go.
That I went to the theater for.
Doesn't matter whether it's theater or not. Just more of a more modern movie.
The one that comes to my mind is Resident Evil 6.
Oh, I see. I don't know if I've even
7.
seen that. I lost interest like after 5. They got so damn stupid.
Resident. It wasn't the one. It wasn't the one that had like Leon in it.
Didn't she get pissed around the 6th one because one of the other actresses were kind of upstaging her and was starting to become more popular than her, so she didn't want to continue?
Is it Ed? No.
I don't remember which one it was, but I don't remember the actress either. Actress, but that series should have been quote terminated, like the Terminator, around 3 or 4 of the Resident Evil franchise.
There's another one coming out.
I have not seen Wonder Woman 1984 yet. I've heard it is pretty bad, but I will eventually watch it. Avengers Endgame. I liked Avengers Endgame. I thought that was pretty good. I didn't have much of a problem with that.
I think it might be Afterlife. Extinction.
I don't know. They have like so many in the.
Either way, one. When we went to the theater to go watch it, we went to the theater to go watch a bad movie. We knew it was going to be bad when we went. That was the point. And me and a buddy of mine at the time were sitting there, and they're like, "There's only 30,000 people left on the planet," and we started counting down every time she killed somebody. We're like, oh, that's just now we're down to 200.
Well, like I said, it stopped making sense after a certain amount of point of time. I liked the first Resident Evil. I thought the first couple ones were very good.
Oh, they're kind of campy and they're like,
but I can deal with that.
Video game movies, but like they're not like
see
a blight on society.
I'll tell you a bad movie that I saw in the theater, and I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? If you ever watched Alien Prometheus.
Oh, yeah.
That movie was ridiculously stupid. I mean, it was borderline. The producer should have been drawn and quartered how bad that movie actually was, if you think about it, especially in comparison to the actual franchise. The only thing that made that movie salvageable, and I'm not no spoilers, but the only thing that even remotely made that movie salvageable was the last, 2 minutes of the freaking entire movie.
I did not like X-Men Last Stand.
I've seen all the X-Men ones. Which one was Last Stand? Was that the one? That's not the one
that
go
was
back
the third one.
Which one? Okay,
no,
Last Stand. Was that the?
No.
Okay, so was that the one with the Statue of Liberty?
There's one with Phoenix.
I know. I've known. I've seen it, but
okay. So there was X2, and then there was X-Men Last Stand, where Magneto bends the Golden Gate Bridge across the way.
Vaguely. I remember the one with the Cyclops and the Statue of Liberty. That was 2, wasn't it? I think
that was 1.
Was it 1?
Yeah, the Statue of Liberty stuff happened in the first one.
Oh. So you get them all confused. There's so many different ones.
The second one was with Stryker and the dam breaks at the end, and Jean dies. And then in the third one, Jean comes back and basically Thanos dusts. See, the thing is that Jean Grey Phoenix was doing the dusting snap of people before it was cool. And it was before it was cool because
Thanos did it to the entire universe.
Cool. Who did it better? The answer is Thanos.
Yeah, because he literally wiped off half the universe population with the 5 Infinity Stones. One's powerful, right? But 5.
Still think.
All right, let's see if we can name all the 5 Infinity Stones. Okay, Mind Stone.
Yeah.
Space Stone. Soul Stone.
Yeah.
Time. Stone, which is the Tesseract. And what's the 5th one?
No, the Tesseract's the space one.
Tesseract's the space one. The Mind Stone was in Loki's staff, because you can't hold them in your hand, right? So the Tesseract was in this thing. The
Mind Stone was
in Vision's forehead.
Vision.
Yeah, but before that, it was in Loki's staff, actually. And then
Yeah.
Wanda
Yeah.
started working with the Mind Stone. She got some of the powers, and then it became yellow. Okay, so the Mind Stone was, and then like I said, the Soul Stone, which never really explains what it is. That's the one that Red Skull has, right? He has to like kill his daughter, Gamora. Yeah. Is that her name, Gamora? You get? Okay, no
Gamora.
Spoilers. And then
why is Gamora?
And Reality Stone. Yeah, Reality Stone's the last one. So Mind, Space, Power, Soul, Time, and Reality Stone. Boy, that's pretty good, though.
The Reality Stone. Yeah, the Reality Stone, I'm pretty sure, is the one that was being guarded by Red Skull.
No, the Reality Stone was the
reasons.
one where he had that red dust, and it was the like chaos. It was like red essence that went everywhere. The reality, I think that was the Reality Stone. The Soul Stone, I thought, was one Red Skull had, and he had it because he actually held it in his hand and it killed him, and then he gave it to Thanatos. Is that not correct?
The Guardians of the Galaxy guy. Well, that was the power. I thought that was the Power Stone.
I don't. Could be.
But yeah, there's 6.
Oh, is it okay? Somebody said Red Skull go to the Soul Stone. Yeah, I've watched WandaVision. I like WandaVision. It's good.
I haven't watched it yet.
No spoilers, but it's worth watching. Yes.
I want to see the Loki TV show, but I'm not paying for Disney Plus because cue Disney.
Yeah.
You're dicks.
Which is it the Loki from the series? Because he's an amazing actor.
Yeah, it's Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston, yeah. He's amazing.
There's a lot of talents. Did you see the Venom movie?
No, but I want to. Is it good?
You should. It's really funny, and I think one of my favorite things was about the marketing. So it was supposed to be marketed as like an anti-hero action movie, but people were like, "Is this a rom-com?" And the marketing team was just like, "Yes."
Well, I mean, kind of look like what's his name? What's his name? Not Daredevil, but the guy ripped him off. Deathstroke.
Are you talking?
No, not Deathstroke.
Talking about Deadpool?
Deadpool, yeah, Deadpool. I mean, Deadpool is complete comedy. It's supposed to be a comedy. It was never supposed to be a serious action movie.
Yeah, but it's totally an action rom-com.
Yeah, but it's brilliant. I mean, it's amazingly well acted.
The second one is really good too, and
one of those rare instances where the second one was as good as the first, right?
Who was it that they got to play Cable?
I don't remember who played Cable, but the girl wasn't that who was her?
Third one's coming out soon.
Boy, I'm horrible at names. Faces I'm great with, but what was
Marina.
Marina Marina Baccarin. Love her, by the way. She was in Firefly. She's one of the most all-time gorgeous women of all time. Perfect. I mean, like literally, if there's perfection, she was it in Firefly. So
is it Josh Brolin?
Josh Brolin. He played. Well, I don't know. He played. He played one of the evil things, but I don't remember which one. Evil. He played. Yeah, because I remember that Ryan Reynolds and Josh Brolin were in that video where they were insulting each other back and forth. It was actually pretty funny. You ever watch that where they sit there and they just sit and they'll just insult each other back and forth?
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
Deadpool 2. Okay, I'm just double checking. It is Josh Brolin who played Cable.
Yeah.
But he was also in another Marvel movie. He's in Endgame. I can't remember who he plays. I'm gonna find out though. Because
it's hard to keep track with all these characters.
Well,
because you got Marvel, you got DC.
Well, Deadpool is Marvel, so he's playing 2 Marvel characters. I just can't remember. This is why I'm looking it up.
Have you ever watched what was it? Was it not? Is it Teen Titans? The newer ones with the
Teen Titans Go?
I
love Teen Titans.
No, not the anime version. The Titans with I don't remember his name.
He's Thanos.
Yeah, he's Thanos. Yeah, Thanos. Yeah, Thanos is Josh Brolin. Yeah, we got that actually.
Glorious.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but no, the
TV series
the
that
TV
like the
series
live
it's
series
called
Titans.
Titans.
Yeah,
They're on
I
Earth,
didn't like.
like some other Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
I liked it
I watched
actually.
I watched like a couple of episodes and I was like, I hate everything about this.
Really, I liked
This
it.
this shouldn't be the Titans. These should just be new characters or something.
Well, they're a version, right? I mean, they're not
why are these the
exact
Titans?
same thing.
Well, that was the problem. Okay, so I have this thing that irritates the hell out of me because people do this with video games and movies and TV series, and because they don't want to come up with new characters and because they want to use something that is already has notoriety, so they're like guaranteed to make a little bit of money, they will take that, like they'll take something. They did this with a Dragon Ball movie. It's like, why is Dragon Ball tagged onto this? Mm-hmm. This would be like a mediocre movie at best, but it's a trash movie because they used Dragon Ball.
Why is this? Sometimes they try to relate things that have just
same thing with Titans. Titans should have either been different characters or new characters, but they wanted to slap the Teen Titans name on it.
I get that.
Like, why?
I mean, there is some there is some overlap, but
Teen Titans Go is absolutely a pile of crap, which is why it's amazing. I absolutely love Teen Titans Go. I do not know who the demographic for that show is because it's very adult and also incredibly childish at the exact same time. So I'm like, I do not know who this show is directed at, and it's just chaos. They've taken the characters from the show and they've taken one or two personality traits of them from the animated series show and cranked them up to 11.
Well, the original ones, I mean, it's a lot more violent, isn't it?
It's amazing. What?
They're a lot more violent. I thought Animal Boy or something like that. It has like violent tendencies.
You mean Beast Boy?
Beast Boy, yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Did you ever watch The Umbrella Academy?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Brilliant.
I've heard
it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
I just don't like watching live action very much.
Yeah, Umbrella Academy I highly recommend. So, anyways, though, we're about a half hour in. There's a couple things we did want to bring up. Jess, you wanted to talk about something, and then I was going to talk about something. Do you want to move on that real quick? Again, by the way, people call in any time. The number is on the screen if they wish.
Yeah, I was looking at the fairness doctrine. And the fairness doctrine, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically just the FCC. And so it's the idea of it is that it's supposed to, if you're covering the news, you should try to give an equal amount of time to both sides of something that is controversial. And I thought that was interesting only because you can kind of see how that's sort of been skewed like way to the side at this point. So to say that, okay, it's only fair if we show both sides, well, no, because it has to be something that is controversial. Climate change is not controversial. Just because people say it's not real doesn't make it controversial. That's not a controversial thing. And so you can see stuff like this when it comes to like political campaigns, where you'll see one person getting way more airtime than another. According to the fairness doctrine in the FCC is supposed to be like maintaining that sort of balance. Like Trump shouldn't be getting, even if he is the current president, shouldn't be getting more airtime than say Bernie Sanders. If like during, I was reading through it, and I guess Britannica is saying that in 1987, the FCC formally repealed the fairness doctrine, but maintained both editorial attack provisions of it. So, like, if you're not supposed to be doing personal attacks and stuff like that, obviously. And they were, until it all got repealed by the commission in 2011. So it's something that used to exist that just has kind of been gutted. And you can see like what's happened as a result of something like that being gutted.
Did that come about because of Fox News?
No, so it came about. Let me just.
I mean, I'm tangentially familiar with it. When I remember about the fairness doctrine. mean, I
Yeah.
tried reading the argument,
Well,
the article you sent me, but it's locked. But from what I remember about the fairness doctrine, is to get mainstream media to not be able to give a sufficiently disproportionate amount of time for one candidate over another, especially during political seasons.
yeah, and specifically controversial issues. So the thing is that facts are not controversial issues. They're not.
Oh, I get. Oh, I see what you're saying. So certain things that they try to make controversies out of are not. For example, if they wanted to discuss flat Earth, there's no controversy there. There's people that understand it, then there's dumb people.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no actual controversy about the shape of the Earth. It doesn't exist in any real sense of the word of controversy. Right. There's just dumb people. That's all. Yeah, I get that. I think some things are political things the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like they'll try and phrase or frame things in a way that make it, we have to show both sides to be fair and to be fair. And it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I don't think they need to.
This is not a controversy.
Yeah, I don't think they need to on a non-controversial thing.
The policy started in 1949.
1949. Yeah, I definitely don't think that they need to show both sides when it's something like, hey, we're like you don't need to bring on an anti-vaxxer, right, to show the vaccines, work or anything like that. That's not controversy. There are controversial subjects. You want to talk about gun control. You want to talk about abortion. Those are controversial, highly controversial. However, they're not discussing facts of the matter. They're really talking about people's subjective opinions on those types of matters. And I get that. It's perfectly fine to do that. That's when you should have balance. But if somebody wants to have a discussion on the shape of the Earth, that's not a controversial topic. And that doesn't, I wouldn't even think that would apply in any kind of fairness doctrine.
Abortion isn't a fact. Right? Like it's not like that's not a hard line.
Yeah, exactly.
A hard line. And it's discussing policies and coming from different positions about why you would come from one policy or from another and how you would want to approach it. That's controversy. So it makes sense to have somebody come on and talk about this policy or that policy and make sure they have equal airtime, because you've got a controversial topic that people should be allowed to be educated about different points of view and different argumentation, and that's fine. This does not apply to climate change. Climate change is a fact. This you can have discussions about different policies regarding climate change, but a policy that says it doesn't exist isn't a policy. That's not controversial. You're just wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I just checked a message on something, and somebody was talking about, they said, some in this group believe that they're part monkey. I'm like, no. Some believe they're just our monkey. I don't know what it means to be part monkey, but that is a scientific fact. That is an actual fact. We're not going to sit there and say there's a controversy whether we're monkeys or not, because there's no controversy to be had there. We're a monkey.
Right.
If you disagree with that, you're just objectively wrong. I mean, there's no controversy humanity. There. Yeah.
Embrace monkey.
Yeah, we are monkeys. Aaron Raw actually, at one time, if you remember his story, where he actually vehemently disagreed and said, we're not monkeys. And then some expert in phylogeny had explained to him in no uncertain terms why we are. And he finally did accept that. He did change his position. Props to him. But it was he was so hateful toward this guy for telling him correct information. I know that feeling. But it's one of those things where facts are facts. He still doesn't get them right. Don't get me wrong. He doesn't understand certain things like, hey, these are groups that we have arbitrarily assigned by various characteristics to say if you meet these conditions, you're in that group. But it is completely an arbitrary group. And groups are not defined as any kind of paraphyletic or polyphyletic or even monophyletic. A group is a group. But he finally recognized that for this to be consistent, we would have to be at least monophyletically monkeys. But
my hair is wet.
But yeah, no, I agree with you on that, on the fairness doctrine. It seems to have been not. It's
been gutted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been gutted. It's just been gutted over the years, and so because it's been so like egregiously just ripped apart and basically thrown out. Except for like I think one of the things that is still maintained is language. Mm-hmm. So like certain words you're not allowed to use on TV, stuff like that. They've definitely
they've come a long way since the 60s and 70s, what you can use on TV. And especially now, even now, they have kind of changed it that even if you say the F word, you get a little fine, but it's not like, all hell breaks loose. Because they realize that accidents happen.
Back George Carlin days.
Yeah, I mean, the 7 words you can't say on, TV, those things don't really apply much nowadays. I think a lot of things have become so mainstream and so
I find that it still applies
common.
more in radio, but doesn't apply as much on TV.
Well, yeah, after prime time especially, like late night, it definitely, because they kind of figured, well, kids aren't watching this anyways. But yeah, I don't think it's really TV's thing to really kind of censor that much. I understand the need for prime time, and I totally get it. But I'm not saying like put porn on, 10 o'clock TV, but I mean, as far as like late night shows that have adult oriented themes, who the hell cares?
Yeah, it's kind of absurd to hold them to a standard that doesn't make any sense for what they're producing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I honestly think it might not be a terrible idea to start imposing these sorts of standards back onto the news and because there's a difference between broadcasting agencies and like just this type of programming that this agency happens to do. So if you were to say, hey, listen, to have to have protections of freedom of speech and to have these, like, to be able to classify yourself as news, which then gives you X perks, you should be following these standards and you should be up to this standard. And if you're unable to reach that standard, you do not get treated as if you are a news source, right? So you ought to lose those things. So like press passes and protection from the government shutting you down or anything like that.
I don't think with the press pass is anybody who disseminates information. So even entertainment would be press pass, even if they were like making shit up. It's definitely falls under press. But I mean, didn't Fox News move away from, hey, we're news, to entertainment? I mean, they I'm not even joking. You know this. They literally said in a legal argument that Tucker Carlson was entertainment, not news, and should be taken seriously. Yeah. Should not be taken seriously. That's a hell of a defense. I mean,
we've definitely got a problem with Fox News. Fox News was always entertainment. They just went out of their way to appear and seem like and behave as if they are news. That might be true, and then
they were entertaining.
There was sure,
yeah, I mean, but there was Hannity and Combs. Say what you want about Hannity being a piece of shit. Back then, and him and Combs actually was a good show. Well, Combs died.
Part of the problem is that other news sources started treating them as if they were news.
Yeah, and that was never the case for that particular show. That was a commentary show. I mean, Hannity and Combs was commentary. It wasn't to disseminate the news. It was to get two perspectives, a right and a left. And then, after Combs passed away, Hannity just slipped into oblivion as far as like stratospheric far right.
Tucker Carlson used to be on a show before he was like the main host of whatever it is now.
Tucker Carlson Tonight or something like that, whatever the hell.
Why is Tucker Carlson? But there's they used to have a show that was like a hot and cold show or something. I can't remember the name of it. I remember Jon Stewart going on and ripping them a new asshole though, and that was amazing.
Oh yeah, he has a way with words.
I love that man.
Yeah, no,
he's amazing.
Tonight with Jon Stewart.
I love Jon Stewart.
All right, so let's see here. We are getting close to our hour thing. People want to call in, they can, which is kind of surprising. Nobody has, but somebody will.
But maybe we're not saying anything controversial enough, so nobody wants to tell us how wrong.
Well, I'll bring up something controversial.
Nobody wants to hang out with us.
Everybody wants to hang out with us, man. I get messages all the time. Listen, but it's like call in. I tell people, hey, wait for us to have a call-in show and call in, and then they don't. Crossfire. Yes. Thank you. Crossfire. Yes. See, we have a smart audience. They know this shit. I don't even have to Google anything. It's just like just ask the audience.
I miss Jon Stewart too, but I am also like happy that he's not having to deal with this bullshittery that's been going on for the past like 6 years.
I like him, and I also like the other night host that really eviscerated Trump's speeches a lot. Who's the other late night host? He did a monologue from like his house, and it was just spot on.
Are you talking about Seth Meyers or Colbert? Or
Colbert Report.
Yeah.
Colbert is brilliant.
Oh yeah, Stephen Colbert is great.
And again, look, I'm a centrist. I'm not even I'm not even a liberal. I'm socially liberal in most of my positions, but I'm not some left-wing leaning person. But I recognize a sound argument when I hear it, and the way they eviscerated Trump was pretty freaking good.
There's something that's depressing about American media when it comes to the news, when your late night entertainment shows are better at fact checking and picking apart what's going on politically than your actual news shows are.
Yeah. Jimmy Russell asked,
I don't want to. Sad.
He says, I don't want to bring up stuff you share sick of. Did I lie? Common ancestry requires assumptions. Everything requires assumptions. All theories start with assumptions. That's nothing wrong with that. We have to assume certain things. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when you say the assumptions are wrong, you need to show why the assumptions are wrong. I mean, they're assumptions. They're assumed. They don't need to be proven true. They don't need to be shown true. They're assumed to be true. And if you don't think they're true, that's the onus upon the person saying that the assumptions are wrong. That's what a great thing about science is, and even epistemological theories. If you have a position and your assumptions are wrong, somebody can show them that your assumptions are wrong and attack it that way. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with having assumptions. But most of the assumptions are pretty banal, it's just very simple,
assumptions.
I mean, we have to assume we exist before we can even start with anywhere, right? I mean, so science assumes the universe exists. Science assumes the universe we can draw inference from and form theories. Science assumes that theories with the least amount of assumption are more beneficial, parsimoniously speaking. There's a lot of assumptions out there. Oh, we do get a caller before I go into my thing. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
I know who that is.
I know that voice. Yes, I know who this is.
What?
What up? What up, you sexy devil?
Well, hello. How you guys doing?
We're surviving.
Did you give me a box?
You guys talking about the fairness doctrine? I've been kind of interested in this for a while. I haven't really done any deep dives into it, into the topic myself, but I've kind of seen the effects of it by living it kind of over my lifetime. But I see this is my experience with it, and this is what I've noticed with the news, anyways. When I was young, and when I was just becoming an adult, I was kind of in this age group where, just as I was becoming an adult, a 9/11 happened. And my parents were so afraid that I was going to get drafted or go to war or something. And they were just like, we're running to Canada or something if the draft happens or something like that. Like, that was the plan. And so, I mean, I was scared. I was petrified of what was happening to the world. So I was glued to the TV for months. Like, I was literally just watching 24-hour TV for months, or news for months. And I remember vividly the change that news made during this time. In the beginning, it was really kind of boring. It was just, here's some footage we have because it's all we got, and here's some other things we have. It's all we got. Then slowly and surely, it started shifting. Eventually it started becoming, let's color code how afraid you should be today. And I don't know if you guys are saying anything. I can't hear anything on your end.
No, we're listening to you.
Yeah, we're listening.
Okay. So it got to that point, and it was a few weeks of that. It was a few weeks after that, after they were color coding how afraid I should be, where I eventually I kind of got to the point where I was like, I am being like played as a sucker. Like, they're like, you're being like a show, like putting to be continued at the end of every episode. Tune in next week, for the dramatic conclusion of the soap opera.
A bomb dropped on your head.
Well, there was an overwhelming amount of things that they were.
You don't ever know what the name of the character of the mom is.
It's like, will we find Bin Laden? Ooh. Ooh, how scared should you be tomorrow? I don't know, but we have it in this handy color-coded thing so you can easily digest how scared you should be. And you'll never know what color it'll be unless you tune in.
Kind of prey on people's fears. There's no question about it. I mean, I remember that time pretty vividly as well. And, that's how they kind of passed through all the things with the Patriot Act. And people were scared, and I think a lot of it was irrational. I'm not going to front on that, but I think I understand why they were. But the news that we were getting from various sources did seem to be disproportionate in favor one way or another. As far as like even bombing Iraq, right? I mean, some places were all for it. Some people thought that we shouldn't. But there was never the talk that I recall of anybody being conscripted or that the draft of happening or anything. As far as 9/11, when did that ever? When did you hear that?
That was just local, like talk around town kind of stuff. Okay. That's all that was. It was just that something like that had never happened.
Which is a scare tactic, though.
Everybody was at 11 out of 10. So
I think that as soon as news started caring about ratings, it became a problem. It's like everything is downhill from there because that's not what the news is about. The news isn't supposed to be about entertainment. And the news isn't supposed to be about how many people are going in. The news is supposed to be about the news. You shouldn't be trying to attract people to watch it.
That's because their business model, right? I mean, that's why I'd rather listen to AP Routers or NPR or something like that. Shouldn't be,
right, and it shouldn't be that way. As soon as news becomes like a more for-profit organization that is caring about their numbers and they have shareholders that need to get paid or whatever, it becomes an industry that is about making money, not about the news is secondary because their goal is to make money. And so as soon as it fucks up your whole system.
Yeah,
and so
Walter Cronkite gave the news. Nowadays they don't do that.
That's why I think it should be, you're better off using a reward system and having a standard. So if you want that news tag, you need to be reporting the news. Now, does that mean you should be a 24-hour cycle? No, nothing says that you have to be a 24-hour cycle. But if you want to be the news, you need this little, look at what happens. Look at what happens when a news show cares more about ratings than they do about the news in time.
Yeah, well, I agree. 24-hour news just doesn't seem to work because you have to fill all that time, and it's just look. It used to be people tuned in and they knew the 6 o'clock news was coming on. They would watch the 6 o'clock news and get distill down just the bare necessities what they need to know was going on and fairly and unbiased. Now you have 24-hour news cycles that constantly run these these things over and over again. Which, by the way, it tends to be. I'm not saying it's indoctrinating, but when you hear a tagline so many times.
Yeah.
If you think it's a fact, even though in a lot of these news organizations, I'm sorry, but they're not promoting facts.
Right.
And so that tends to be problematic as well.
They're promoting stories, not facts.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I'm convinced. I mean, this is the problem. I don't know exactly what happened, but I can, I have guesses because what I saw happened kind of fast. And that is that the news that I remember being so freaking boring, where you would just, when you got to MSNBC, it would almost put you into a coma before you could hit
MSNBC, to be honest with you. I've never been a big
Well,
fan
I'm just talking about if you were going through the cable channels and you were hitting next, suddenly you hit MSNBC, it's like, oh God, I'm already in a coma before I can hit next again. CNN, oh God, I'm in a coma. It used to be like that, but then suddenly it's just you get to the news channel, super graphics everywhere, big, humongous production costs all over the place. You got to that almost overnight, right then. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because they realized that they can make money. If they can grab, they didn't even realize that they were in a position where they could grab people.
Sure.
They could have a story narrative. They could
it's a captive audience. The audience has to watch you, and so you're taking advantage of that, particularly when you're in a war.
But whatever happened to watching a news program that you find entertaining that's also informative? I mean, I happen to like Anderson Cooper. I think he's informative. I think he's entertaining. I think he's funny as shit. And I think he has brilliant analysis. May not be fully, hit same politics or anything like that, but he has a good program.
Yep.
But you know what?
Tapper's actually not too bad either.
A world that is like that's a general kind of realization of how the real world is also so freaking boring that nobody's going to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you're saying they have to spice it up a little bit. I get that. If not, you just get an NPR type, today, January 23rd in North Carolina, this happened kind of thing, I get that. I don't say they got to spice it up a little bit. I'm saying they have to blatantly misrepresent how the world is every day. Well, I mean, that's what Chester's saying.
To the point where they're lying.
That do that, right? There's news organizations that do that, but not all need to do that, do they?
Well, this is what I see on my nightly international news. I don't remember what it's called, but I see it every day at the dinner table, and I hate it. I hate it so much. But every night at the very end, they go, "Oh, but we're going to end on a good story." Like they're like they know that they've been feeding everybody just misery the entire time.
Well,
like they're very aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not even like they know that they're like it's just accidental.
Well, I mean, what do people rather read? I mean, the horrifying things that happen around the world, or the good stuff? I tell you, I tell you, they do read the horrifying stuff more.
It's a column A and a column B thing. So a fire is more interesting than like a more fluffy story. But what we've noticed now, because we live in a boring dystopia, the feel-good stories are also depressing.
Even when you have feel-good stories, are like, oh, that's so tragic.
Who started a lemonade stand, and look at how well she's doing. Isn't that amazing? She's using it to get her cancer treatment paid for. And it's like, wait, child labor.
But she doesn't have a permit, and she's violating rules of the city she's in, and she needs to be arrested and put in a concentration camp. Yeah.
That the parents are using her for child labor to pay for the child's cancer treatment. Like, what does happen? What is it? Hold on.
I love when you get those Karens like, do you have a permit for this? It's like, oh, geez.
You hand them a piece of paper that says, "I do what I want."
Yeah, I do what I want.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Oh God. Yeah.
So like when you're in a situation, it's like you can make the news interesting. You just have to be the right kind of personality and the right kind of person who has the ability to do that and have good people working with you. Like you said with Anderson Cooper, you can take something that's not depressing, or take something that's not a catastrophe and make it like, if you were to take a news show and you were to have a segment for local, like smaller news, then you would have a segment for more national news, then you have a segment for international news, and you were to actually stick with the facts of what's going on and then have commentary about why one thing is happening over here based on what politics, that would be very interesting. I think lots of people would want to watch that, because there's so much that goes on all of the time. It just takes a lot more work, and it's not going to be something that's necessarily going to make you a lot of money. Like, take this show, for example. We're not going to make a lot of money doing this show, and we are entertaining, but we're not going to go and do a bunch of drama nonsense, because that's just not what we want to do. But that does not make this show any more or less valuable for what it is, right? So,
yeah, and we also do maintain a difference between when we give something as a statement of fact and just our mere opinion that we can or cannot support, right? I mean, that's the difference. I mean, there are people that actually go out of the way to fabricate stuff for their channel, and I think this is so morally reprehensible. I can't even put it into words. But it happens. It happens quite frequently, and they probably do make more. But again, you got to look at your goals here, and the goal for like this show and what we do and we've always done on our channels is not to make money as a be all ends all. It is to make a living, sure, but to do so in the way we want, and do so by giving out what we believe is correct information. If not, people correct us on it. That's why we have an intelligent audience, because they'll let us know when we get shit wrong, and they thrive on that. More power to them, right? I'm like, cool. It makes them happy. Prove us wrong. I love that.
it's a matter of mutual trust, right? We trust them and they trust us. So they trust us to know that we're going to do our best, and we're human and are going to get things wrong, and we trust them to kind of keep us in check in that way. Now, if you're a random, we're probably just going to laugh at you.
You're not gonna know what the hell's going on half the time. New people come to this channel probably going, "What the hell is this about?" What
Oh, absolutely.
Especially a show like this, which is just us in the morning, just like literally having a breakfast club thing
in our pajamas. Yeah, and it's the thing is like sometimes you can end up having very, very interesting conversations, just kind of meandering around some vague topic.
Yep.
Right? Would you say you want to go for an hour? How long are we going?
Well, we're almost at an hour, so I'm gonna dive into what I was gonna bring up real quick, and if somebody else wants to call in, we'll keep it going. If not, we'll wrap it up because we're at the hour. But Mr. Thank you, my friend, for calling in. You're still there?
All right, yeah, I'm still here.
You can hang on if you want. We don't care.
All right, yeah, I'll just mute. You can go and talk whatever you want to talk about. Maybe I'll stick around.
So as people know, I have like 40 Facebook groups that I'm in, and many. Well, I shouldn't say many, but a lot of them I do admin for. But I'm in a lot of these atheist versus theist groups, and one of the reasons I go into there is just to see the level of dumbfuckery that exists. I mean, as simple as that. It's a sandbox. It's a test by arguments.
Too damn high.
Yeah, it's just, you realize you're going to get a certain amount of people that are going to be so damn stupid, not understand the arguments, not at a level to even have a reasonable conversation, more or less, or an intelligent one. And you use them to show other people this is the type of level that some of these people are at, and they're out there. And that's what we, as like on Caffeine Corner, will try to raise the level for people. And it does work. I mean, it has worked. I have people message me all the time going, "God, these people in this group are dumb as shit." I'm not going to call them out, but I've had an admin. The owner of the group, the sole owner of the group, for a very large group, tell me that he's like, yes, these people in my group are dumb. They're just straight up dumb. They're not going to understand what you're talking about. I happen to agree with you, but they're straight up dumb. Yeah, and by the way, I'm the admin of my group, right? I think I have a lot of mods, but I think I am the only admin. But in my group, people aren't dumb. There are some, but the Great Debate community on Facebook, they're pretty intelligent people, right? And I had somebody just join recently and go, "Hey, this is a whole different atmosphere." I'm like, "Yes, it is." But one of the things I had put in the group, did you want to say something?
No, I was saying dumb lives matter, and I also said yes.
Do they? Do they really? Procreation, yeah, got to worry about that. But atheism versus theism groups, there are a whole bunch of them. But one group I had posted in trying to explain the difference between descriptive and prescriptive, trying to explain concepts like necessary versus sufficient. And the amount of comical backlash I have on some of these again, she was talking about what's not controversial, what's controversial. Certain things are not controversial. Necessary sufficiency are not controversial topics.
Steve is basically wandering into a room saying, "Water is not wet," and then walking out.
Which is true, by the way. Water isn't wet. It's a wetting agent. But again, they don't understand concepts like this. And, I don't care if somebody says water is wet. It doesn't bother me. But physics knows that it's not. But it's like there's certain things that are just not controversial. And so, like, I'll try to explain, look, if you have what's called a conditional implication, where you have P implies Q, the converse of that, right? The converse is Q implies P, which doesn't always necessarily hold, which is one of my arguments that if you have a descriptive definition of a word, like square, and let's say that I use to describe it as a shape with four sides, that is a description. That description is accurate as far as it describes a square. Is it sufficient? No, clearly not, but it's necessary. It is necessary that a square has four sides.
It's the same thing with rock atheist, right? Rock atheist isn't it's not good enough. It's you don't have a complete.
Yeah, it's necessary not to not believe to be an atheist, but it's certainly not sufficient.
It's not right. It's necessary, not sufficient. So you have, like, if you say if there is not a belief in God, it's an atheist. Well, yes, but also no, because it's not sufficient. So you could say, yeah, I guess, but if you do that, here's all these lackload of problems, and then they go,
well, that's the thing. They don't understand the complications that come with it because they don't understand these terms. And so, like one person has said, well, you have actually, it's more than one person says, like, you have an incorrect definition. How are definitions incorrect? Either they're useful or not useful. You can say that they don't comply with our uses of terms, but to say that a square has four sides is an incorrect definition is ludicrous. Clearly is a correct definition for what we understand a square to be. Is necessary, but insufficient. And so the funniest part was somebody actually said, well, to make it sufficient, you've got to add, and I got to add equal signs. And somebody said this on Twitter too, a square with 4 equal sides. That's sufficient. I'm like, oh, really? Ever heard of a rhombus?
Right.
That has 4 equal sides. Sufficient would be a two-dimensional figure, or a two-dimensional shape with 4 equal sides with 4 right triangles.
Yeah.
That's sufficient because that would exclude a rhombus. So again, though, when we have a description of a word, the description doesn't prescribe usage. It describes this. When I try to explain it in logic, P implies Q. So square implies it has 4 sides. That's true. Just because it has 4 sides doesn't imply it's a square. The converse doesn't hold. That was my whole argument. Nobody understood but one person. One fucking person gets it.
I can describe to you what a triangle is, and I can describe to you what different kinds of triangles are. That does not tell you what they can do or what you can do, nor the limits of what you can do with a triangle. You can do a lot of things with a triangle.
Yeah, Scott says rhombuses are not a subset of rectangle. Correct. They have 4 equal sides. And it's a little more, I would say a specific thing, right? But it's still not sufficient because it lacks the 4 right triangle property that necessarily would prescribe what a square is. So if you have a mathematical prescribed definition, that's fine, right? That we do that all the time in mathematics. But general dictionary doesn't prescribe usages; it describes. You cannot get a prescription from a description. That's the whole problem with is-ought fallacy, right? And that's the whole problem with Hume's guillotine. You can't get a prescription from a description of reality, a fact versus a value. And we see these things all the time in philosophy of people trying to get a prescriptive thing from a descriptive thing. This is why there's a lot of overlap there. We see it with Ayn Rand objectivism. She tried that and it failed. T-Jump tries that and failed. There's just no way to do it. And so this group doesn't understand those types of concepts. And so it just boggles my mind that these are supposed to be the elite people of atheism and elite people of theism, telling me that my argument's flawed and they don't even address any of the things that I've talked about. But anyways, go ahead. That's my rant.
Actually claim to be elite, or do they just behave as if they are? Yes. Do they make that claim?
Yes. A rectangle by definition has 4 side angles. If again you were talking about a prescriptive definition, right? Clearly, yes. But they don't have to be equal signs for a rectangle.
Right. Yeah.
I've actually noticed some of the things that you're talking about. I have a different idea about why that could possibly be going on. That might not have that much to do with people's intelligence. It might have more to do with maybe temperament or even charity. That's my thing. So I always have to break everything down to that. I'm so biased. But I think that maybe people are way more gung-ho to try to argue instead of trying to understand. So where they'll just misunderstand you and try to combat you, then that's the route they take, and that's why they can't be right, because
I agree
you're not wrong.
No, I agree with you. But here's the thing: if they're at that level with all they want to do is have fallacious argumentation, then it does to me seem to be lowering what I would consider to be a intelligent, rational person.
Well, I also think that there's something to be said for steel manning. I think probably one of the most important things you can do in a discussion is steel man the other person's position. Because if you can steel man it, it means you probably have a good grasp about what that person is saying. And now you've actually made sure to hammer down whoever you're talking to this position. Because you don't steel man somebody without them agreeing that you've got it correct, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can get them pinned down, because I noticed a lot of people will argue in a very, very waffly way where they're like, well, in this situation, I'm saying this, and in this situation, I'm saying this, or in this situation, I'm saying this. And it's like, okay, but what is your position though? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out. And so I'm trying to steel man you, but I have to have a clear understanding of your position. So if your position is inconsistent, well, now you have a problem with your position, because now we've just demonstrated that your position is inconsistent. And so if it's not consistent, how good of a position can it possibly be? How do you defend that? Or how do you even argue against it because it's just moving goalposts?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and in the live chat, yeah, rhombuses are not rectangles, but a square is a very specific type of rhombus. That happens to be also a rectangle,
What is it?
right?
All squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares.
It still a square is a special form of rhombus, but that if you define a square prescriptively, it'd be a two-dimensional plane object or shape that has 4 equal sides with 4 right angles, right? And so a rhombus would clearly not have the 4 right angles, right? So a rhombus doesn't have to have 4 right angles, though. Rhombus is not a rectangle, but a rhombus is a two-dimensional shape with 4 equal sides, which would be also applicable to a square. So a square is a type of rhombus and a rectangle.
I think that there needs to be a higher priority put on if you're going to engage with somebody. Both people having agreed to engage, that you need to be able to steel man the other person. I also think that there's kind of a conversation going on in the side chat about biases.
Mm-hmm.
A bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with having biases. It is a problem if your biases are overwhelming your ability to look at something objectively. You can have a bias. It doesn't mean you're not capable of looking at something from an objective point of view or from a different angle. So I can say, like, listen, I'm not a fan of X. Let's say I don't like cats. So I have a bias against cats, and somebody shows me a picture of a cat. That doesn't mean I can't objectively look at that and say, that is a cat that doesn't look like it's an asshole. Or my friend has a cat and I can think my friend's cat is cute, even though I have a bias against cats. Or they can say, like, hey, this cat has this, 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 and this. And I could say, yeah, but they're still a cat, which would be problematic. Or I can say, oh, well, that sounds like it's not so bad. Like, you can have, just because you have a bias doesn't mean it's necessarily even a bad thing to begin with. It's just a matter of being able to manage that bias and knowing when and how to be able to take a step back and look at something objectively through, like, being able to, like, segregate your brain.
I agree with that. But let's say we're like we were just talking about terms like rectangle, rhombus, and they're talking about parallelogram. These words have actual usages in mathematics, right? In geometry. We all agree upon that? Okay. So, for example, I would use those words the way they're used in mathematics, right? And nobody would bat an eye. But when I say, hey, I use words in philosophy the way they're understood in philosophy, people lose their shit for what Mr. Sears was saying. They rather argue than understand. And I have had people tell me straight up they understand logic. And I ask them, and I'm not trying to sharpshoot them at all, right? But if you tell me that you understand basic logic, because this is all the logic I use is first and second year. It's not some advanced shit. It's not by any stretch of imagination. But if you tell me you have a basic understanding of logic, and I ask you if a simple, rule of inference or even a fallacy is valid or not, and you don't recognize a rule of inference or fallacy, why should I take that person seriously to be able to critique my arguments that use logic? I don't know why anybody would do that. If, for example, you're talking about mathematics and somebody says, hey, square has, 5 sides to it. Are you going to take them seriously? But no, because we understand prescriptively that a square in mathematics does have a prescribed definition, but that doesn't mean that a dictionary will not give a general understanding of it. For example, Merriam-Webster says a square is a shape with 4 equal sides, which is a little bit more descriptive, but is it sufficient? No, right? It is necessary, but that's their definition, right? It's not prescriptive.
Well, and there are people that will use when I pull out a bag of dice, and somebody says they need the triangle one. I don't go, no, it's a pyramid, and hand them the 4-sided dice.
Yeah.
If they say I want the triangle one, I give them the 4-sided dice, which is a pyramid, not a triangle. But you're not going to be so prescriptive.
Yeah. Fairline says, I disagree. When you have a square, it cannot be a rectangle. All squares are rectangles. Square is a subset of rectangle. A rectangle just has to have 4 right angles, and with the opposite sides being adjacent and parallel. That's it. So you have parallel, and you have 4 right angles. That's a rectangle. So if you have a elongated one or whatever on the X and Y, that's a rectangle. A square is just an equal rectangle with all 4 sides being equal, parallel, and 4 right angles. So a square is a subset of rectangle.
I do, however, agree that hexagon or bestagon.
Dodecahedron.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to mention about steel manning. I honestly cannot remember a time when I've actually ever successfully done this in a conversation, and I am not exactly certain. I want to do it. I think if that is a very important skill for people to get, because as far as I'm concerned, wouldn't you want to, if you're going to argue against somebody is like your point versus their point, wouldn't you want to beat their best point, even
Yes.
if you're not confident?
Yes.
If you're not confident in your position and you need to build a straw man to beat up instead of their position.
Yes, and that's what these people do. They argue against the dumbest things, or they attack me personally. But like I said, only one of them ever. One person.
You ought to. Yes. If
you want to have a productive dialogue, you ought to. See how that is a hypothetical syllogism, goal oriented. But
no, you use the if. Get out of here, Steve.
One person had talked about the logic, and they started talking about contrapositive, and I'm like, yes, here's the contrapositive of this, which is always true if the conditional is true, and what he said actually proved my point, right? So he wasn't aware that what he was saying literally demonstrated what I was trying to get across, but he was at least the only person to willing to even talk about the difference between contrapositive and a converse, which was the whole point of my post, being the converse doesn't hold. A square being a shape with four sides defined like Merriam-Webster is not meaning that this defines this. It means this describes this. You cannot get a prescription from a description. You have to say, like in mathematics, let's define this, right? Then you're prescribing it. Defined this way. It's not giving a description. It's telling you what is the definition. It's a prescribed definition. There's a difference there.
You can describe something and describe it accurately without being the most accurate description.
Yeah, of course.
Easily. I can describe Puck without being the most accurate. Yeah. He is a large black dog.
Doesn't really tell me much.
No, he tells you he's a big black dog. Does it tell you?
If you say, look, Puck is a member of Canis lupus or Canis familiaris. Okay, that tells me he's a dog. Doesn't tell me much about him though. But for him to be a dog, it is a necessary condition to be Canis lupus, right? And so I actually might even be sufficient in that case, because you're telling me he's a dog. If you just don't tell me, he was a dog, then you can just say, hey, it's Canis lupus. Okay. Well, no, actually, Canis familiaris would be sufficient. Canis lupus would be necessary. There you go.
And a lot of the times a description is going to be dependent on the conversation you're having.
Yes.
So if I'm talking to a biologist and I'm trying to suss out what family or what order Puck is a part of, I would have to give them specific information for them to be able to understand what I'm saying in that context.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking to like a friend from high school that I haven't talked to in ages, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have a dog, he's big, he's black, or whatever. And then that might be all I say. But if they're coming over and they have a fear of dogs, I might then be more specific and say, well, he's very friendly. He doesn't jump on people.
Well, but to some people, you might be describing your boyfriend.
This is maybe or girlfriend.
Or girlfriend. Can girls be dogs? I don't know if that's a gender specific.
I am saying he, though, to be fair.
Yeah. Men are generally the dogs. Yeah.
I might tell you what breed he is, because some people are uncomfortable around specific breeds of dogs. And so, and at no point, though, have I been incorrect. I may not have given a full and best description, but it's a description that suits the purpose.
They tell me I'm incorrect for saying a square has four sides. Literally tell me I'm incorrect.
Same with the Canis bupus. Yes, the boops. The same with the triangle dice. It's not the most accurate description because it's a pyramid with numbers 4 labeled on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you say, I need that triangle dice, I know what dice you're talking about. I can give it to you. So it's not like it serves the purpose of what I'm trying to get at. And so when you have descriptions that are so loose, like rock theism or rock atheism, now I don't know what you're talking about anymore. Now, if you're a lack theist, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
But don't you think it's odd when people use a description as, oh, that's incorrect? Like you said, if you're trying to tell me about Puck, and you say Puck is a member of Canis lupus. Okay, I know he could be a dog. He also could be a wolf, though. And a domesticated dog is different from a wolf. They're both.
He kind of looks like a bear.
But it's a necessary condition for a dog to be a dog, it has to be a member of Canis lupus. Now, if you tell me he's Canis familiaris, now I know he's a domesticated dog. That's a sufficient condition. Neither one is incorrect. And so when people are telling me that I'm giving an incorrect definition of a word when the word is describing, they've lost the plot. This is the amount of stupidity that I deal with in these groups. And this is why I tell them, look, I talk about these things, then I go on my channel and I tell people about these things as educational things to avoid. These are the traps I help people try to avoid. Stop doing that. Stop thinking that a definition is prescriptive. And my audience gets it. They've all heard a lot of this stuff before.
It's bizarre that they think a definition is prescriptive and then tell you you're being a prescriptivist. That's just
weird, right?
That's the part that loses me. Like I can follow all the way to why they might think this. Like I can understand where they're coming from to say that a description is prescriptive. I can understand where that's come from. I can see how we got from point A to point B. What I don't understand is when they do that, say that, and then say you're the one, and then have a problem with that thing by saying you're doing it. And it's like, if you have a problem with that and you don't like that somebody else is doing it, even if they're not, why are you doing it?
Yeah. And again, it's weird to think I'm a prescriptivist when I'm not, when I'm the one been arguing these are descriptive terms, right? And I have had two prescriptivists come by and say, look, you're not using English correct. Is English your first language? And I'm like, look, first of all, if you start telling me how to use English and start telling me that, my usage is incorrect, other than just, what I would call regional things, or, look, if I say a noun's an adverb or something like that, I can understand people saying that's not correct. But don't speech police me. Don't be a grammar Nazi. It will never work out in your favor. I've blocked two people already, merely because they were grammar Nazis, because they have nothing to add to the discussion, right? If you point out, look, you should have had a period rather than a comma or this or that. I'm not interested in that. I'm just not. And don't police how I use words if I'm using them in a sense that makes sense to people. And then they say that I do that. I'm like, no, I don't care how you use words. Just be consistent. And if you use certain terminologies, what is the ramifications of that? Like rocks being atheist. I don't prescribe that you must use a word a certain way. Never have. I'm the opposite.
There's an issue with vernacular that I think comes from, my grandfather wrote a book about this. And it's essentially about how television, radio, and the way people speak is starting to affect the way people write. And so it's fine if you're writing casually to write the way you speak, but because people have picked up such bad habits from watching TV that they don't know what they're doing when they talk. People don't speak words good.
Well, as you said, you got to know the rules to flaunt them, right?
Well, and there's a lot of words that people's vocabulary just isn't as large as it ought to be. And so people are just throwing words out there that, yeah, I understand what you're trying to say, but there's a word that already does this. But now so many people are using this word to mean this, that nobody even remembers this is a word anymore, and this word has lost its previous meaning, so now we don't have a word that means this anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, or worse, when for example, in these groups, they always get fallacies wrong. I'm telling you right now, they don't understand informal fallacies at all. They get ad hom wrong. They get straw man wrong. And anybody who knows these fallacies can tell them, hey, look, you're not using these things correctly as far as the application, right? Because there's this, for an informal fallacy, there's generally a logical format for it, or at least there's a something to say, look, these are conditions to which this would apply for this particular informal fallacy. They don't even know that. They don't know what the conditions are. They don't know what the logical rule would be. They don't understand the application of it. So they are have a misapplication of those fallacies, and yet they don't ever correct themselves. Even when other people join in and say, look, dude, that's not an helmet fallacy. Stop saying that. Or that's not, you can't straw man a definition. I've had people tell me that today. You're straw manning the definition of a square or an atheist. I'm like, you straw man an argument. You don't straw man a definition. A definition is not an argument. It's a statement. They don't understand these types of things because they're so myopic in their understanding, because they, again, as Mr. Sirius pointed out, they're not interested in learning. They're just interested in argue. And I want people to start noticing those things. That's what we do, is tell people, notice that type that just parrot, that don't even have any argumentation skills of their own, or don't put forth any arguments of their own. There's a distinct difference to be had, because those people that just parrot, whenever you ask them to suss out any of their things they're saying or describe it or give evidence for it. They never give any. None ever.
See, this is why I miss having Nick Suter around, because he was so good with these kinds of conversations. It's too bad he's a complete fucking shithead.
He used to be at one time.
Well,
God damn.
I really want to give. Actually, you both deserve a lot of credit in this field because argumentation. It's true argumentation is like a two-way street. Like you have to be able to understand the person that you're talking to in order to argue with them. If you cut that bridge off, you have like defeated the purpose of what you're doing. In order to steel man somebody's argument, which I've seen Chesh do, and I am envious of that ability. I want to do it one day. I want to do it just once.
You watched the Gary video, right?
Yes. It was awesome.
Just like a surgeon.
6 fucking hours.
But yeah, but you know what's funny is he didn't even understand his own argument. She did a better job at describing his argument than he did. That's a true steel man.
He needs to take her arguments and use those from now on. That's
better,
what he needs to do.
It's still not perfect, but I mean, a steel man is a steel man, right?
I would rather do that, to be honest.
That's hilarious.
Just step in the right direction.
All right, I think I know who called in, but is this Shamos?
No.
No. Damn it. Okay, who's this?
Martin.
Who's this?
Martin.
Oh, Martin.
Hello?
I'm sorry. Martin.
Yes.
What up, Martin? Okay, what you got for us?
How you doing?
I have
a question.
I have an answer.
I'm doing all right. If you're like the high pope of agnosticism, who's like the pope of like theological non-cognitivism?
Well, you know what? I don't. Would there be such a thing? I don't. Let me think here. Well, putting aside the whole Pope thing, because the Pope kind of tends to be something along theological lines, but who would be? I did have an ichtheist on one time, and I don't remember his name, but he was an ichtheist, which is the closest you're going to get to theological cognitivism, I guess, around here. But I don't really know anybody that truly is a theological cognitivist, especially if anybody of note. Who would you recommend?
Well, no, that's why I've been looking for people who want to defend that position, and
it's hard.
to find
Yeah,
anybody.
It's a hard position to defend. I used to kind of describe myself as a partial theological non-cognivist, and only because I had a hard time instantiating. I went to more error theory back then with Mackey and saying, look, there's just no way. I don't know how to instantiate the concept of a God into the proposition God exists to make it true. So like all moral facts are false. I at least could understand the argument that all theological propositions would be false if there's something to instantiate. But I kind of moved away from that, although I understand the reasoning. But I can't even find a theological cognitivist that understands what theological cognitivist even is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thought like theological cognitivism and what do they call them? Ichtheists are the same thing.
Agnosticism, yeah. Well, what's your view of a theological cognitivist? What do you think that they do?
I think they say that like the proposition has like no meaning because the terms are so badly defined.
Correct, and not only no meaning, but no truth value that you can assign to it.
Yeah, right. There's also I guess there's like variations in that area.
Yeah. So the theological cognitivists would say God exists is not propositional because there's no meaning to the word God. It represent a proposition. Like in prescriptivism, not what we were talking about earlier, but in moral prescriptivism, something along the lines of "don't steal" is not a proposition, right? It's a directive. Don't steal. So it's it's moral non-cognitivism. Theological non-cognitivism is similar. If you have a proposition that deals with gods or anything relating to that, those are not meaningful. They don't express a proposition. That's what a theological cognitivist would hold. But they're also not theist or atheist. It's funny when somebody says a theological cognitivist doesn't have a God belief, therefore they're atheist. Well, the problem with that is
they're non-theist.
Yeah, the problem with that is they're not even non-theist. It'd be funny. Classical logic wouldn't really apply here. Normally, everything is theist or non-theist, right? And so if you take yourself to what's called a higher epistemic vantage point, then yes, they are non-theist, right? You have to go to a higher epistemic vantage point. But in their reasoning, they're neither. These are terms that make no sense to them. They're not even a category to be had for a theist and non-theist. Those are non-categorical things to them. And so it's hard to kind of pigeonhole them in anything because by doing so, you're kind of negating their position, right? In order to do so, you really do have to take a higher epistemic vantage point. And so
that would upset them.
Yeah, and it would upset, because then they're like, well, what, theist and non-theist, those are not categories of anything, you know? It's like
saying that you are an atheist, Steve. That would upset you.
It'd be more like Gibberwacky or not Gibberwacky. Okay, yes, that is a dichotomy, but what the hell is the conditions to be a Gibberwacky? They're just nonsensical categories. So if I say, hey, you're a non-Gibberwacky, the person goes, what the hell does that even mean, right? So they understand that there's categories there, but they wouldn't be in neither, because neither one makes sense. They're nonsensical categories, right? Or at least there's no meaning to them to put them in either one. They're like, well, I don't know which one I'm in, because I don't know what the hell this term even means. That's more along the lines of theological cognitivism, but they're very rare, and they're very, very most of the time, like I said, people that claim to that type of belief can't defend it very well. So why are you looking for one? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just interested in the position, and see if anybody was, had any hangouts dealing with people who have that position.
You would argue against it?
But no, I would just like to hear what they had to say, because it seems like so kind of a little bit far-fetched to me.
Yeah. A true theological cognitivism is kind of out to lunch. But go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
It's just something that's going on in the chat. They're sort of discussing fallacies and whatnot. And I think I wanted to just point out that fallacies are kind of universal. They're not confined to a debate setting, and they're not confined to a discussion setting. You can point them out or find them even in regular conversation. So like, you can, if you're watching somebody's takedown video of somebody else, so say somebody's like, oh, this person blah 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 blah. Cherry picking happens a lot, or taking something out of context, or maybe presenting a false dichotomy, or a red herring, or like just presenting something in just a incredibly completely misrepresenting what was said, to the point where it's just been so twisted that you've come up with something complete. The conclusion that you've come to is just compounding problems of like, you've taken this. And sometimes it can happen with an assumption. If you take an assumption that I'm going to look at this person and what they did, and I already have this bias against this person, so I'm already going to assume they're the bad guy in the situation. And so we saw a little bit of that with Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation, right? So people were just assuming Johnny Depp was the bad guy because whammons. So there's a lot of fallacious argumentation that goes on between people when it comes to a discussion or having an opinion about a situation that they may or may not be a part of. And so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing a little bit of that sort of standard go up a little bit, of just like, if you're watching a commentary channel, or if you're watching the news, or if you're watching anything, like even us, and we're describing a situation, look out for stuff like that, because I mean, we're going to get things wrong sometimes too, right? So
what? Stop that crazy talk.
Well, no, what? So I think I've been enjoying watching people be better at noticing those things, but I do want to kind of open it up a little bit even further and say, hey, this can apply to your real life. And so if your boss says something to you and it sounds like it's kind of fallacious, if you can recognize it and explain it, your boss may not be doing that on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like a game, though, with our audience, that they find when they find something wrong. Yeah. And we enjoy that. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick, somebody had mentioned something here I wanted to touch on real quick. I just lost it again. Somebody had said... Kimawaki said, I don't see why theological non-covs can't root their argument into the Frege-Geach objection. And they do, actually. A lot of that, if you look at the Frege-Geach embedding problem, it does show that there is a non-cognitivist type of approach, because you can't formulate you can't get something coherent out of a non-cognitivist position, right? As far as an argument, because it changes the premise to something that's not truth apt, and that's the problem with the Frege-Geach embedding problem. So a theological non-cognitivist would probably run a Frege-Geach objection, I would imagine, Maki. But that kind of stuff is way up here for most people. So But I would agree with him. Anyways, we got a new caller, actually. Boy, people are calling in. We only going to go an hour, and now we're at 90 minutes. Why do we do this, Chesh? Every time. We wanted to have a short show. But
You're asking me why do you lie to yourself?
yes, I lie to my audience. You know that. It's just a thing I do.
You don't lie to your audience. You lie to yourself, man.
What's the difference? I like to do both. You know. No, I know. We went where we really did. We're like, let's try to keep this an hour before we started. And like, we'll see how it goes. But it's contingent upon what we're talking about. Contingent upon people calling in. But anyways, who's this? Real quick.
My name's Kyle Curtis.
Yeah. Okay. That would be fun.
That would be.
I'm sorry, I'm not speaking.
Go ahead. You have the stage.
Oh, no, I'm good there.
Is he breaking up because I can't hear him?
I don't
Oh,
know.
no, I'm good there.
Oh wait, is this a soundboard of Kyle?
Yes, it is.
Oh, oh, I did.
I did it.
It didn't sound like in the beginning. So, did somebody make a soundboard of Kyle? That would be hilarious.
I might slightly have hooked up a bunch of sounds of clips of Kyle to my Rodecaster Pro.
Oh, I hate that when it happens. Wait, was that intelligent design or was that just an accident that occurred?
What? No, this is Sam Chaos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, okay. But
Hi, Sam.
Hey, Sam, did you making that soundboard? That was a result of an intelligent design, right? That soundboard just didn't magically appear, right?
Oh no, the soundboard just magically appeared Christmas morning. I blame Santa Claus.
Gotcha. So, what other goodies you got for us? This is fun. I like this. What do you got? What is it? What can it say?
I only made a few because I just started making it this morning, but we've got.
My name's Kyle Curtis.
Oh, that is Kyle.
Oh, no, I'm good there.
See, that one's hard to place.
Oh no,
I'm
there's
sorry, I'm not speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only got the 4 things it does, but I thought that was quite fun.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's great.
When is somebody going to make a soundboard of me? Although I don't know what it'd be, but it would be fun. I don't care if it's even like people that hate me. I would be thrilled.
Maybe I should do that and make a conversation between you and Kyle.
Oh, that would be epic.
That would be fun.
See, my audience is creative as shit, man. Much more than I have. I have no skill set to do any of that stuff. But
I have a
that.
soundboard that I've been using over on my channel, but it's not anybody in particular. It's just ones that I like, and I have one that's part of my opening now, and it's Bob and Markiplier and Wade when they were doing a stream, and I clipped it, and it's just like guys, a goblin is coming. What? And then I just start the stream. Hello.
Dude.
And I got one of a certain turd saying that he has a psychological problem with women. And I thought that was appropriate for my shows.
That the funniest part is like half the people we know on the crazy side all seem to have issues with women. I don't understand, but they really do. Like legit. I'm not just throwing that out there. I think a lot of them have some real issues there. But did you ever listen to Darwin Deity's soundboard? Because that's the all-time best.
No.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of a Brett Keane one though.
I don't know if I've seen.
See, the
Brett
thing
Keane
is,
one.
if you had a Darth Dawkins soundboard, you could just do a Darth Dawkins debate.
Oh, it's hilarious! Yeah, you've never seen the Darth Dawkins soundboard?
That's funny.
I have not.
Oh, it's absolutely epic.
I've only encountered him a couple of times. Interesting.
Free to play, Steve. Get the soundboard you can interview where Kyle admits be a criminal and wants to be incarcerated. Oh, dude, if you can make a soundboard of like the lawyer and Kyle.
Oh, you would have to have that audio file though.
What? No, I mean it doesn't have to actually been what happened. I mean, I'm talking about a fictitious, one where you have a lawyer or a judge talking to the Kyle. About his criminal contempt and his civil contempt, I
wonder if there's enough audio for so depending on how long you've been on the internet and how much of your voice has gone out into the internet, you can actually build whatever script you want based on that person talking.
Dude, I have 1,500 videos. I can literally start QAnon again or something. I mean,
the thing is that I
piece
have
together what I say.
I
only have really basic software. I'm using Audacity, but if I had something slightly more complicated, it would actually be really easy to go back through all the old non-sex show episodes, pull out all the different phonetic sounds Carl makes, and string together any sound I want.
Oh, sure. If somebody had the time and the patience to do that in the software, of course. Yeah, Audacity is really good for what it does, but it wouldn't be powerful enough for that. But yeah, no, I think it'd be hilarious. The judge going, so Mr. Curtis, did you provide false and misleading information in the court in violation of whatever rule it is for the interruption of proceedings? Kyle be like, but Steve's a mean poopy head.
See,
it seems to be the ultimate defense.
I just threw this together this morning because I was like, I know that StreamYard's link you sent me ages ago won't work, but I wonder if we can call in. And like, if that StreamYard's link had worked, I was going to change my name and avatar to just be Kyle.
Yeah, well, you're over in the UK, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're
but there is there's a number that you can call that will kind of redirect your call to the US for just regular tariff charges. So I'm doing that.
Yeah. So have you ever seen some of the work that like Ozzy Baller makes?
I've not. I don't know who that is.
He does a lot of memes and stuff. It's just hilarious. Absolutely a riot. I think he did the one which is my favorite. Or it could have been Chesh. I don't know. One of them did it. But somebody had a picture of it was a billboard, and it was split into three quarters, one third. Yeah, quarters. So it's 3/3, and the first third was Nate Brody, and it said dumb. The second third was Kyle, that said dumber, and then it had the third quarter as Unirock that said what was it? Dumb or something. It was just perfect. It really just it was like this is like
so
right
like
there.
Dumber and Dumbest type thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't dumbest. It was like dumb or something. I don't know. Maybe I can find it.
This is the fun thing of listening to Steve trying to try to describe a meme he doesn't remember.
It was brilliant. I remember that.
This is a practice of this is a description. It's just not a good enough one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not
the whole thing with that is people using a dictionary, which is a linguistic thing, to try and argue academic philosophy, which is not a linguistic thing, because in linguistics you have a lot of associative terms and connotative things, and people ignore that when they shouldn't.
Well, and there's different levels too. There's certain people that are like, oh, this is wrong regardless, right? There are people that are just like, hey, it doesn't even exist in philosophy, and then you're like, wait a minute here. And there's other ones that go, okay, it's in philosophy, but we don't use those terms because they're too precise, and we'd rather have these generic terms,
Well, there's a different that when you're when you're arguing a semantic instead of the argument, you've lost the plot. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have discussions about semantics. That's fine. There's arguments to be made about using one word or another word in different ways and why you might want to do that. But that's not, if you say, but that's not what the word means, and you start arguing the semantic, you're no longer addressing the concept anymore.
Yeah, and you're no longer in the realm of discourse I want to have with somebody, right?
Yeah, you're not having a discussion about the concepts anymore. You're having a discussion about linguistics.
Correct.
Which is why you need to hash out definitions of terms before a debate, which frustrates me that people don't.
I agree, but at the same token, not always. Look, if two people on such a level that they're beyond just, hey, the how lay groups understand things, most of the time they don't even have to do that because they're going to be using just normal terminology that they understand with each other, right? So there's no reason to. Now, there are times where, like, for example, I have debates on morality where I have to go in and say, look, how are you using the term objective and subjective? Because I find that there's people that use them differently, which is nothing wrong with that. It just, there's authors that use them differently, right? So papers will use that term very differently. So we have to get that out of the way right off the bat, or not, they're not going to have the same discussion, right?
Yeah, and because people use the terms differently, it means I get to do fun things like say that my view on morality is what I call objectively subjective, where it cannot be objective unless you're comparing it to something. So you can say it's objective, but objective to a deity, for example, or objective to
That's called the grounding problem,
say,
was what it is.
whatever.
Yeah, it just sounds like a variation of the grounding problem.
It's literally just, I say that because people don't seem to get the issue that comes up when you try and ground it in anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the pushback on that would be like grounding, whether it's arbitrary or subjective, doesn't make what you formulate after that non-objective, right? So the whole point of objective morality is that, hey, look, there are things that will be objective depending on how you ground it, which I think absolutely holds true. But I think a lot of atheists will have knee-jerk reactions to that. Go, oh, we can't have objective morality because that means there's a God. No, it doesn't. Matter of fact, if you actually imply God exists for objective morality, I think it actually denigrates the argument because that's ethical subjectivism. But that's just me.
The other thing is that when people say that, they usually mean a classical theist God, the concept of which I find incoherent purely and simply based off the fact that it usually implies purely moral, which I think personally is an incoherent concept for a god to have, not for a person necessarily, but for an agent such as a god, that would be an incoherent concept.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's also like a trouble with if you're trying to have a discussion, and a lot of the times I think most people are usually fine to use whatever terms that the other person wants to use because whatever doesn't really matter. But when you start getting into things like this lack theism thing, it changes the conversation that you're having into if you're having a conversation about a god. So if you're a theist or you're an agnostic and you're talking to an atheist and you want to have a conversation about whether or not God exists and they bring this lack theism to the table, that means the agnostic and the theist won't have too much of a conversation about the God in question, because they can just sit there and be like, then what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what are you? There are so many ways to attack that position that they don't need to have the conversation that probably the lack theist even wants to have, nor the conversation that they may want to have. So even if you accept their terms, it can still be problematic.
Yeah, and worse is when they say, can you define God?
That's the trouble a lot of people get into when they try and, for example, use street epistemology on people like me, pagans.
And then they get mad.
Yeah, well, dude,
you're just trolling.
I legit had somebody the other day. I tried to explain to them that ontological naturalism will epistemically entail atheism, as far as an affirmative positive epistemic status, and they brought up pantheism. And I tried to explain to them that pantheism doesn't have intentionality, right? So if you want to say that God is the universe and all this, that doesn't really incorporate what we really mean by a deity that has intentional states. And so a pantheist, in that regard, would be a naturalist, right? Or would be somebody who believes there are no gods. They're just semantically saying the universe is a god. But that doesn't encapsulate what we mean when we're talking about an intentional being that has creative abilities, right? And so as a pagan, you must drive them crazy when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the only way it would apply is if the pantheist in question was a panpsychist.
Yeah, but that panpsychism is a completely different thing, right? And a panpsychism may not necessarily fall under naturalism, right?
True. I mean, depending how you define naturalism, I can see someone trying to argue. It is a bit like how I'm polytheist, but I argue that I would be a naturalist under any reasonable definition because I think supernatural is an incoherent concept to describe something that would physically exist.
Yeah, and that's a whole different argument to be had. I would obviously have pushback on that because I think there is a reason to have a non-natural category we call supernatural, but I let other people describe what they mean by supernatural. I'm fine with that. But, I think the fact that when we're talking about something so beyond our understanding, that if you had a being that could prescriptively change the laws of the universe and from which, if did not exist, the universe wasn't existing, I would call that supernatural in my uses of terms. Because if not, then why do we care if such a being exists or not? If it's not outside our natural experiences to such a degree, then what the hell were people even talking about, right? I don't see it makes sense to say, here's a being from which all things are contingent upon. And make that, it's just a natural thing, though. Yeah, I think that kind of distracts from what we're trying to talk about is the difference between a natural explanation and something so far beyond our comprehension that it would be
sure. Given a certain definition of supernatural, I will hold that supernatural things exist. However, I just don't like that definition personally.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that atheists in the like theist sense like to change the atheist definition means that with them I get to have fun and say, oh no, I'm a polytheistic naturalist.
Yeah, and look, I'm fine with people doing these types of things if they can articulate what they mean by them. I don't mind. You can articulate it. I know you know the terminology, and I know that what you say is coherent from your schema, right? And what does Cheshire and I always talk about? Have consistency. As long as people have coherency, I don't care. I'm like, oh, I get what you're saying. Sure, I don't care when people do those things. I'm all for people coming up with creative, stipulative type usages if they can defend them.
I kind of want to hear what Mr. Sears is trying to say, and then we should probably look to wrap up.
Sure. What we got? Okay.
I heard him trying to jump in.
Yeah, I have a question regarding what we were talking about like 20 minutes ago.
Go for it.
It was, well, when it comes to like the people who are talking about like the whole shape thing, I'm not convinced that coming to terms before the conversation would change anything about the conversation. Is there anything that can be done, like as a community, to, I guess, combat the idea that winning a conversation is at all beneficial when it comes to, I guess, arguing ideas?
Okay, I'll touch on that for a second. I'll give you an example. When I go into those Facebook groups, I'm not there to talk to the 5 or 6 people that are just an idiot, right? I mean, I'm not there to have these types of in-depth discussions, and I don't get anything very deep with them. In fact, I'm pretty superficial for the most part until I get that one person who answers in a very cogent, coherent way, and then I'll get very, a lot more technical and a lot more deep, and talk to that person, right? And my point is to show the difference between a person who can have that conversation, who's somebody who can answer in a way that's coherent and cogent, as opposed to people that just parrot. And that's what I've been describing to people lately. Matter of fact, somebody just came from the Facebook group over to watch this particular episode. After seeing the difference, they didn't know any of my channels or anything like that, but they recognize, hey, look, why is it that Steve's always providing citations? Why is it Steve's providing logic? Why is it that people are even coming back going, okay, yeah, your Venn is technically correct? And people are going, hey, if you're going to say Steve's wrong, where's the arguments for these? Where's the actual evidence? I still got a person literally in one of these groups telling me that 0.99 repeating doesn't equal to 1, and they pointed me to a video that is so bizarrely wrong. I have to wonder why this person has any math degree whatsoever that they claim to have, because I showed it to like Josh Garver, who's a professional mathematician, and he wanted it to pretty much end his life, I think. I mean, it was just like he was like, how does this happen? It was so bad. And when people don't have the skill sets to actually argue, like, okay, if you're going to tell me that 0.9 repeating is not equal to 1, you can point me to a video that's comically stupid. What's my takeaway from that? And my takeaway is that I want to be able to show the dichotomy between people that can have the discussion on that particular topic and those who can't. And when people see these things in these groups, they start recognizing them. Those are the people I want to have conversations with. And so I'm not just spinning my wheels when I go into those groups. I do use them as examples to show on Twitter and Facebook, other groups, and on my channels. The difference.
And you just kind of like watching the chaos sometimes.
Not going to say
Well,
otherwise.
Chaos is fun.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm more interested in like these people who are just like, I'm going in there, I'm going to pwn Steve. Watch me, guys. I'm going to get him. See, totally won that conversation. Woo! Let's go have some beers, fellas.
Sport, don't
High fives
they?
all around.
I don't think as a community that's something we really encourage or do too much of. So
I know we don't do it, but my question is, how do we get them to understand, hey,
not sure you
our
can.
side is the right way. You guys are being idiots.
I'm not sure you can, man. We've been doing these for years. We're explaining things, and it's not just on the philosophy stuff. Mathematics, they get wrong.
I think
that's objective.
I think it depends a little bit on who you're talking to. If you're talking to, like, you'd have to kind of assess that a little bit more on an individual basis. And one of the best ways is by leading by example. If you have a standard of conversation that you've decided is good for you. And whether it matches ours or not doesn't really matter. Or like if yours matches mine, great. If it doesn't, whatever, it's not the point. Not everybody communicates in the same way. But if there's sort of a standard or like rules of engagement, so like the 5 C's, stuff like that, the way you get more people to want to do it is by using it and demonstrating how it's effective.
Okay, well, let me ask you, Chesh. I thought you were done.
I was just gonna say, so like if you're dealing with somebody who's like they're just there to start shit, then the best way to deal with that, in my opinion, if you're still going to decide to converse with that person, so assuming you're still going to have the conversation, then your best bet is to stay on point.
Okay.
If they have a question, if they're like, oh, saying this, and you say, okay, well, what about this? Do not let them move on until they've answered that question.
And I fully agree with you if you want to have a conversation with a person, and I do that. But ones if you don't. Yeah, ones if you don't. Like, for example, I people just seem to get, there's just a certain level of dumb fuckery that I won't even address, right? When this person says to me, look, logic is stupid, there's no reason to be rational, there's no reason to even apply logic, math is subjective, that's a level of flat earth, like, that I'm just going to go like, hey, thanks for playing, but I'm not interested in having any kind of conversation with you because I've already demonstrated to people that you're an idiot. I don't need to go any further to show anything. There's nothing productive to be had by showing how dumb you actually are. Where do you go from that?
There's actually an answer to this, and a part of it has to do with your personality. So I'm better at this than Steve is, for example, and that's just the way it is. And it's just not something that he likes doing, so he doesn't do it my way. But my way appears to be more effective.
In some cases.
Sure. Meme on them. That's the answer. You meme on. If you get somebody who shows up that is saying something that is so absurd that it's like you're not even going to have a conversation about it, don't have a conversation about it.
I do. I mean, I put it on Twitter. I'm like, look, here's some new atheist TM that said this. I mean, literally, somebody actually said like, oh, your definition of a square is incorrect. So a square doesn't have 4 sides? If you're telling me it's incorrect, you're telling me that the description doesn't accurately describe the object. It doesn't have to be sufficient, but you're telling me it's not accurate as far as a description. So if a square has 4 sides and that is incorrect, you're literally telling me a square does not have 4 sides. This does not take fucking a genius level to understand that.
But what did we learn yesterday?
Chesh, have you ever been in a debate?
Yeah, Jeff, have you ever been in a debate?
Brevity, brought to you by the letter B. Memes are best left as short as you can possibly make them. Yeah. So, like, if somebody goes ahead and goes down a line of logic and you're willing to have the conversation. So, like, let's take, for example, what Mr. Sears just said. Have you been in a debate, though? That is such an non sequitur. You could just laugh
so pithy,
at it.
Isn't it, though?
And you go, God, it was so like, but there are times when you're like, you know what, I'm going to allow this because I like where this is going to go.
I'm all for that. Do it. Everybody has their own style and everybody has their own approach to things.
Well, in some cases it's valuable and in other cases it's not, right? So it kind of depends on what sort of conversation you're dealing with. So if you're dealing with somebody who's just trying to troll, which I think is what Mr. Sears was kind of referring to, is he's just talking about people that are just coming in sideways and then they see something like so egregious that it's like, we're not even going to talk about this.
No. I mean, I honestly think like this is my thought. I mean, I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt. I always do that. Oh my gosh, I'm so guilty of doing that all the time. I honestly think that people think arguing to win is the right way to do things logically. Like, I don't even think they're trying to troll. I think they think that if they win the argument, that they have logically beat Steve.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 1,000%. And that's how, by the way, in debate clubs, that's generally how it is, right? A debate isn't based upon the person who has the right, information. It's the one who persuades the audience, right? You can have a shitty position. You can win your debate if you persuade the argument. It's not about the facts, but that's not how it is on the internet, right? People recognize, hey, look, if you have a fallacious argument, we don't give a shit if you did better in the debate. We'll laugh when a flat earther beats somebody, but it doesn't mean flat earthers is true, right? But I think it's funny when a flat earther does better in a debate, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also probably guilty of extending the principle of charity way too far. but like when people have like that dumb of an argument, it feels like you can probably like do the argument through memeing on them by asking them how that fits a consistent epistemology.
Yeah, you can essentially the best way I find to deal with something like that is to fire back with a question. Mm-hmm. Now that doesn't mean troll them with the question. That doesn't mean be a dick about your question. Have a legitimate question, but make sure you have a very poignant question. So if you're dealing with somebody whose argument is very fallacious, if you have a good understanding of the argument that between their argument, your argument, and like maybe other directions it could be taking, and you have a solid understanding of the fallacies or what fallacious argumentation they're using, like where and why it breaks down, ask them a poignant question that if they answer it, they admit to themselves that their argument is fallacious.
Yeah.
So like an example might be, well, this person did that. And you say, why does that matter?
Yeah, Sean Carroll says he was in speech and debate, and he says to me that's very true. People need to study the Lincoln Douglas style debates, and also the Tolman method is a very prominent method that they have for debate style. But in those types of debates, it is pathos, logos, and ethos, and that's how you approach your debate style. And when using things other than logos, especially when it comes to pathos and ethos, you're literally trying to persuade people based upon your character, or you're trying to persuade something through some kind of reason argumentation, but it's not using like any kind of deductive things. And so all they want to do is say, hey, who had the better arguments, right? That's what you're looking for. Who had the better arguments? And so a flat earther could easily win a debate if they had better arguments, even if the arguments were fallacious, but the other person doesn't see them. You see, you have to do it internal in those situations. You're not saying, hey, look, this flat earther was amazing and he got everything right. No, but he out debated the other person even by using sophistry. Right. So again, it depends on what your type of debate structure is. Mine, when I set up these discussions, they're not debate format; they're discussion formats, and it's a completely different ball game. But I had somebody ask me the other day, Chesh, that I've been around a while in this group, and they said, "Well, have you ever actually done a formal debate, Steve?" I'm like, "Really?
Have you been in a debate though?"
Yeah. Have I debated? And I was like, not only have I debated, but I've got people to actually change their positions. How often does that happen?
If something is so ridiculous and nonsensical, there's no point in treating it with any kind of respect. Now, that doesn't apply to people. That applies to maybe a position or an opinion or some stupid thing that somebody said. It's not everything deserves to be treated with respect all of the time, because if everything's treated with respect, nothing is.
Yeah, no,
sure. And I think the thing is that when we talk about treating people with respect, people conflate two different meanings of respect. Respect as in thinking they're worth listening to or respecting their opinion, and respect as in respecting them as a person. Now, the former I do not think is owed to anyone until they demonstrate it, but the second I think is owed to everybody. And I think a lot of people conflate the two.
Yes. Yeah, beliefs don't need to be respected. I do actually hold to that mantra because, like, flat Earth is a belief the Earth is flat. Why should I respect that belief? I don't respect bad opinions, right? I respect your right to have them, but that's not the same thing.
You can think that opinions are sacred without thinking that each individual opinion is sacred.
Right, and that's the whole thing about the non sequitur show, right? The opinions are sacred. Doesn't mean we respect your opinion, but it means you have every right to have it.
Yeah. If you think all opinions are worth respect, look at sports.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah.
All right, we've gone to 2 hours now. We're going to wrap this up. I want to thank the callers that called in. This was kind of a potpourri type show, just a mishmash, but we have that every so often. You got anything coming up, Josh? Yeah, amazing. We say it's going to be an hour, and then it's 2 again.
I'm going to be over on Karma Valley's channel. We're talking about Marilyn Manson. I guess there's been some shenanigans, and I'm ready to go over there and have my mind blown.
Marilyn Manson's real life shenanigans stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and tomorrow I will be live talking about the quartering again so I did a video.
Cheshire's punching up.
Yeah, I guess. I don't feel like I'm punching up because based on people's numbers. I always feel like I'm punching down because I'm talking about something stupid.
No, I agree with you. I look, you know me,
man.
I
feel like I'm punching
up. If
up.
somebody's wrong, I don't give a shit how many subs and crap they have, but I'm not going to fabricate something. I'm going to go after people that I think are wrong.
last week I did a video talking, like a stream video talking about a video that the Quartering did about women in D&D and a Twitter conversation from 3 years ago. Well, somebody recently sent me some dumb thing he tweeted the other day, so now I'm going to look at something newer and be like, is he still like this? Did he get better? Did he get worse? I did a little bit of a comparison piece.
So let me
and
ask
then I
you-
will also be back on Thursday to talk about a little bit more of Twitter atheists.
So it's so funny because Cheshire and I, when it comes to like critical thinking, we really are a lot alike. I mean, I have a lot in common in that particular regard. And matter of fact, one of the reasons why I got to know her years ago on Twitter before she even came into the community is because, of compatibility in ways of thought, much like the Entry Feline and Heather, and all these other people that we associate with. But the funniest thing is, I used to get so much pushback. Hey, Steve, why do you harp on this particular issue when it comes to like atheism? And Cheshire has latched on to the reasons why. It is a litmus test. It is the something that, look, if you can't even understand the concepts that go into this to have a reasonable discussion about objective states and factual matters. Same thing about why I use mathematics for that. Then how can I trust you to have any conversation on any other thing? And it's so funny because, like I said, I've harped on that whole atheism thing for years now. Cheshire is now harping on it, not because she gives a shit about it that much. She is a strong atheist, right? She does believe all God's bullshit.
I honestly do not care.
Yeah, but that's not the reason why she does it. It is because it is an example of poor critical thinking.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and that's welcome to my world. I'm a non-believer, right? When I see these atheists do these stupid fucking arguments, and I go, "Oh God, stop! Just stop!" It's not a matter of do we care that God exists or God doesn't exist or whatever, or any if they start using a certain terminology or not. That's not the issue. The issue is straight up if they can't even understand these concepts. If they can't understand the domain of discourse, if they get mathematics wrong, and don't understand what objective means in these types of conversations when it comes to the ability to go figure something out on your own that's not contingent upon any kind of mind, then again, why would you bring them in for any other discussion? Because I think they lack the fundamentals.
There are people that I know in my real life that do not think that they're good at this. They do not think that they can enter any kind of discourse. They do not think that they have like the intelligence or that they're good at it. And that's because of people who dictate based on how loud that they are, and they are very confidently incorrect.
You mean the gatekeepers? Yeah.
How confidently can you be wrong? And so, and so there are people who are otherwise would be amazing to either have on or to be able to talk to, or who ought to feel more confident than they are, because shitheads have shitty argumentation, and because they just circle jerk around over here, it makes problems for everybody else to actually be able to have these kinds of conversations. And it's like, okay, listen, you guys can do whatever you want, but can you stop getting in the fucking way? I'd appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks.
let's leave it with that. The only retort you can have for that is, hey, Chesh, have you ever been in a debate? Good night.